Welcome. You're listening to The Best of Investing. That's my other show, Sports Econ 101. I'm your host, Edward Brown. Our phone number is 888-912-1190. Use that number to answer the trivia questions for a 5-pack tanning certificate given away during the show. And that certificate's not sponsored by the radio station, but by Tan Bella Tanning Salon with 2 locations in San Francisco and 1 in Marin. And you're going to want to answer the trivia questions because the certificates are worth over $100. So that's a nice little gift to win. Today's trivia theme is entertainment trivia. And my 2 co-hosts, Mark Hanf and Nam Phan, I'm not sure if they're going to join us today, but we do have a special guest. Thomas Douglas, the author of the book Adapt or Die and CEO of Jmark. Thomas, welcome to The Best of Investing.
Hey, thank you very much. I'm glad to be here. I appreciate it very much.
So let's just get right into it. First of all, let's get into what is Jmark? Because you've won some awards there, and I'd like the audience to hear what you've done.
Yeah, so we're an IT managed services company. So effectively, we manage IT for our clients to protect their business and help them grow. So when they don't have an IT department, or if they have an IT department that has some gaps in it, we step in and help the organization to run more successfully and develop a technology strategy that helps the organization to achieve its long-term objectives. And in today's world, obviously, keeping companies safe with all the cyber risk out there is quite a task. And so we have a lot of responsibilities. We manage about 20,000 devices around the country. And so it keeps us hopping and pretty busy.
Well, yeah, especially with all the cyber attacks that are going on. I mean, that's just, it's like so important. And then and give us a brief introduction of yourself. Who are you?
Yeah. Well, I've had the privilege of being the CEO for over 20 years now. So I stepped into the company as a level 1 engineer after being in the Navy, where I kind of fell in love with technology and learned a lot about discipline and learned a lot about what it means to be a good leader. And candidly, I learned a lot about what it means to be a bad leader, which put me on the path that I'm on. And when I was able to work my way up through the ranks from a level 1 engineer in the company and then eventually buy the company from its founder, we had to downsize it to about 6 people. We've been fortunate to win the Inc. 5000 award for fastest growing small businesses 9 times in a row. We have about 120 people in the company now and continuing to grow. And we have employees in 9 states, and we have clients in 43 states. And so we have had the gamut thrown at us, and love to share that experience with our clients.
Absolutely. It reminds me, Mark Hanf and Nam Phan aren't here today, but Pacific Private Money has grown. I think they doubled every single year for the last at least 5 years. And this year they're on track to do over $1 billion worth of loans.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just incredible. And they're expanding to other states and all that. I'm sorry that they can't be on today, because I know that Mark just loves the kind of business that you're in. And we've got a few minutes before our first commercial break. Let's talk about your book, Adapt or Die. What is that?
Well, as we were going along, I realized that I was making a lot of mistakes, and I was learning as we went. And I was fortunate to be surrounded by a lot of really brilliant people that helped to coach and train me along as we were going, and helped me from skinning my knee quite so badly and stubbing my toe quite so badly. And as a result of that, I kind of learned what I describe as the algorithm of success in the book. And so the book is teaching you all the things that you need to know in business to be successful as you're building and growing. And the algorithm contains product and strategy and how you grow and the financial model, a lot about people, and then operations and process. And so it kind of lays all of those things out on the heels or as a part of a fable to learn the practical applications and how these things actually are applied in the business, rather than just theory like so many of the business books that you read.
Okay, and then in the next segment, I definitely want to hear some stories from you about that.
Yeah.
It would have been awesome to have Jason Jennings on, who was a best-selling author. Unfortunately, he passed away last year. He wrote a best-selling book called it's not the big, let's see, it's not the biggest that eats the small, it's the fastest that eats the slow.
That's correct.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
basically, it sounds like a kind of similar to your book, because again, adapt or die. I really kind of like that. And then how did you get, again, we'll just real quickly, how did you get on Inc.'s magazine's fastest growing list? How did that even arrive?
Yeah, I mean, it's an application process that you go through, but candidly, I mean, you have to grow fast as an organization, and you have to be able to be successful. And we focused on, you know, high customer service and really helping people to get comfortable with technology. It's so overwhelming,
Oh
and so
yeah.
many business owners just don't understand what they need to have. And candidly, they end up with a technology environment that's just overly complex.
And then
And so
what do you do? You get in touch with Inc. magazine, and then they make you I guess you have to prove your growth.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
correct. It has to be certified.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Before we go to break, how do people buy your book, Adapt or Die?
You can get it on Amazon is the best way to get it right now. We'll eventually be able to sell it from our website, which is also adaptordie.com. But if you go to Amazon, and search for Adapt or Die Thomas Douglas, it'll come right up.
Okay. And I glanced at Amazon, and it looks like you got a bunch of 5 stars there. Everybody seems to love it.
Yeah, so far so good. We've
Yeah.
had some great feedback, and it's really making a difference. We've had some really cool stories about the impacts that it's making, which was the goal, is to share it and pay it forward so that other people didn't have to learn the hard way.
Okay. All right. We're going to cut to our first trivia question here. And again, just a reminder, Thomas, if you know the answer, don't say anything yet. We'll let you answer
I
it
won't
again.
say anything.
Okay. Uh, Entertainment trivia is the theme. Whose tombstone bears the inscription, "That's all, folks"? All right. I'll give you a little hint when we get back, too. Call 888-912-1190. The first caller with the correct answer is going to win that tanning certificate worth over $100. First trivia question. Whose tombstone bears the inscription, "That's all, folks"? All right, stay with us. You are listening to The Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown. Don't touch that dial. We're going to be right back. Welcome back to The Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with my special guest, Thomas Douglas. First trivia question. Whose tombstone bears the inscription, "That's all, folks"? Who would that be, Thomas?
Unfortunately, I do not know the answer to
Okay.
that.
So if we said, "That's all, folks," would that help?
No,
No?
I don't. I don't know.
Okay.
That's
Mel,
big, but I don't know
yeah,
beyond
yeah,
that.
Mel Blanc.
Mel
Mel
Blanc.
Blanc, yeah,
Okay.
it's on his tombstone. I thought that's kind of sweet, actually. So
Yeah.
on the on the studio right now, we're doing this by Zoom, so I usually say like in the studio, but we're doing this by Zoom. We have Thomas Douglas, who is an author of the book Adapt or Die. Can you give us some fun stories, because they're obviously, you have to have some stories in order to write this book.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I think that there's a couple of interesting stories that we share throughout it, and one of the things that we did that I think is kind of fun and unique in the book is we took the same small organization all the way through the algorithm of success. So
Huh.
so Chuck, the CEO, gets to learn about product and what it means to develop a product for a certain target customer, so that you really understand what it is. And so he learns through the experiences of product and developing a strategy, and then going into the growth pieces and so on through the process. But as a part of that, he deals with what I describe in the book as people puzzles. And some of those people puzzles are solving like internal conflict of how you work through things, and partner conflicts, and some of the fun stories in there is how Chuck has to solve these major life challenges associated with, what happens when you've got two partners that aren't getting along. How do you solve those problems, and how do you deal with managers that have a tendency to step on their own tongue when it comes to saying and doing things with their team that they shouldn't say and do. And
Well, that brings me to one of these questions here, which is, what are some of the practices you put into place to combat turnover and burnout? Because that's the thing, is when I was coming out of college, it was during the Carter years, and
wow.
we were lucky to find a job. because of the
Yeah.
recession back then. Now it seems like the younger crowd, I mean, they you know, you just change underwear and they change jobs. You know, they're just bouncing all over the place. I think that that may have to change here pretty soon because I think a lot of employers are getting a little bit tired of that. But how do you know, what kind of practices do you put in place to combat turnover and burnout?
Well, fundamentally, I believe that it's putting people at the center of everything that you do. You know, the mission with Adapt or Die is to create better leaders that create better businesses that make a difference in people's lives, that change the world through business. And when you put people at the center of everything that you do, and you remember that as a part of the decisions that you're making from a leadership team, that you need to make sure that people have the capacity, they've got the skill sets, and they've got the desire and clarity around what it is that they're doing, and lead with honor. So what does it mean to treat somebody with respect and honor from the very
Exactly.
beginning? And when you're doing that and you're drawing the vision and people can get on board with that from a culture and from a long-term perspective, your turnover is a lot less and people are excited about their job rather than that, you know, the Sunday night blues of, oh my gosh, you know, I got to go to work tomorrow morning,
Yeah, exactly.
that so many
Because
people have.
money is only a small part of it. You know, people need to feel they need to feel they have purpose and that
Yep.
they're they're that they have real impact on the business.
Hmm.
Like so I call her associate. She's an assistant. I mean, she's been with us now for 30 years. You know,
Yeah, that's
and
fantastic.
right, and I pretty much just give to her. I trust her, and it's like, listen, you tell me what to do. And
Yeah.
I mean, I've always kind of taken that attitude. You know, ego gets you nowhere.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
yeah,
I say in the book one of the big tenets that I believe that leaders have to do. I guess there's a couple of them. The first one is that you have to fall in love with the truth even when you don't like it. Uh,
that's good.
and when leaders can lead from a place of truth and facts, then it helps in terms of credibility. But two, is appreciation is the currency for motivation. And so when you
Yeah,
show the appreciation for your team and you're grateful for the contributions that they're making, the value that they bring, and they know
yeah,
that's that piece above salary. You know, like I'm appreciated in my job. I'm respected in my job.
yeah.
You know, it helps people to feel like that they have a purpose not only in the workplace but in life because they're contributing to something that's bigger and better than themselves, and that's ultimately what we want.
And from a work ethic standpoint, I know like at our company or at Mark's company, Pacific Private Money, the CEO, he's probably the hardest working person, and everybody sees it. And so
Yes.
it's a little hard to slack off when the CEO is working harder than you. You know,
Yeah.
it's not like he's just sitting there with his feet up on the desk and just smoking cigars, waiting for money to roll in. You know,
That's right. Yeah, you got to lead by example. That's exactly right.
yeah, very good. And
Yeah.
you were in the Navy. How did that experience in service contribute to your leadership style?
I think you know, I learned as much about, as I said earlier, I think I learned as much about what good leadership is as bad leadership. You know, one of the characters that I introduce in Adapt or Die is a guy that I kind of funnily refer to as Tamaha, which stands for the asshole who made me a leader. And and maybe I'm not supposed to say that, but that's how I introduced him because he was such a bad leader that treated everybody poorly. He didn't respect anybody's opinion, and I just vowed that if I was ever in a position of leadership, that I would never treat people that way, which kind of led to my theory or thesis that appreciation is the currency for motivation. It just makes all the difference in the world to treat people with the respect and honor that they deserve. And so, you know, I learned a lot of those things, but you also gain an appreciation for how fortunate we are in the United States. I mean, I had the chance to see 18 different countries, and I
Wow.
saw some really, really challenging, you know, living just conditions and the way that people were struggling and suffering through. And so it gives you an appreciation to be really grateful for what you have
Yeah.
and appreciate it for what it is, because until you see it, you don't have that same level of emotional touch with that, what some people have to go through just to get a meal.
Yeah, listen, I love work. I can sit and watch it for hours. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Actually, it's funny. Actually, Sunday nights I get a little antsy because I love working. So I look forward to Mondays because I get to work for a whole week. So
That's it.
yeah, and that's why people say, "Oh, when are you going to retire?" And I go, I can't see retiring. I mean, what am I going to do? Play golf every day? And it's like it's
Okay.
no purpose. I mean, sure, I'll take off whenever I need to, and maybe work less or whatever. But I love working. Okay,
Yeah.
we're going to go to our second trivia question. One pretty fast here.
Okay.
Which cast member of the TV show The Big Bang Theory has a real PhD? Now you got to know the show in order to know the answer to this. And in fact, she kind of expanded away from the show after it was canceled. We'll call it that, or it ended.
Yeah.
And she went on to do another show. Which cast member of The Big Bang Theory has a real PhD? Call 888-912-1190. First caller with the correct answer is going to win that tanning certificate. Stay with us. You're listening to The Best of Investing. Don't touch that dial. We're going to be right back. Welcome back to The Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host. Now, my two co-hosts, Mark Hanf and Nam Phan, are off today, but I do have a special guest, Thomas Douglas, author of the book Adapt or Die. But let's answer our trivia question number 2. Which cast member of The Big Bang Theory has a real PhD? And if you don't know the show, it's about a bunch of nerds who are really smart in science. And I'm going to try to pronounce her name, Mayim Bialik. And she plays Amy, who is Sheldon's girlfriend / wife, because they end up getting married. And I believe she ended up hosting a Jeopardy for a few shows recently. And did a pretty good job, apparently. So, and she has a real PhD in bioscience, I think. Okay, so we're talking with Thomas Douglas here, and I want to ask you a few more questions here. With the upcoming recession looming, how can your practice be applied to boost morale and retention during tumultuous economic times?
Yeah, I think it's a tough one, but I think part of it is communicating with your team, kind of proactively and preparing for what's coming. We've started to have some of the conversation around inflation and some of the challenges in our environment. It's up to the business to create safety, i.e., cash and profitability in the company that creates stability for people's jobs. But it's up to the entire team to be mindful of what it means to make the right choices. So managing expenses and making sure that the products and the customers that you're serving are actually producing the gross margins or the profits that you're expecting as an organization. And a lot of businesses don't have a good handle on their data when it comes to this. And so I think as a part of going into the recession, it's really important to know what levers to pull and to plan in advance. One of my mentors taught me years ago that when you're planning for situations like this, you need to plan 3 scenarios: the worst case scenario, the most likely scenario, and the best case scenario. And that way you can anticipate what you may have to do before it comes down to crunch time. So you're walking through some of these challenges. What if you lose your biggest client or your 2 biggest clients, or what are you going to do to recover from that, and what levers can you pull within the business to make sure that you're running a sustainable business through
and you can change. And that's the thing. You can start off saying the worst case scenario and realize, well, that's not going to happen. So move on to the most likely one. No, I like that. That's pretty good. And then, we were just talking before about, I love to work and all that kind of stuff. But how does work-life balance look to you? What do you expect of your employees?
It looks a lot different for me than it does for the team, because I'm like you. I love what I do, and I get up around 4:20 every day. I start my day by 4:30. Get a workout in the morning, and by the time that most people are hitting the front door, I've done a tremendous amount of work for the day, and it's definitely my most productive time. So for me, it's creating the work that I need to get done for the day, sometimes before the day starts, so that I can be here to support the team, serve the team, answer questions, and do those kind of things. for the team, I think it oftentimes it's different. In our organization, one of the things that we do is really encourage people to be able to leave at the end of the day and leave in a high energy state. So many people get to the 5 o'clock and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired, and so they go home and their family gets the worst of them. What I like to encourage people to do is, well, how do you end your day on a high energy point so that when you get home, your family's getting the best version of you? So we try to encourage that, and obviously taking time off and the things to recharge and checking out from time to time. I think
but how do you help them stay really charged at the end of the day so they can give their families the best?
Yeah, it's tough, but I think it's how you end the day. I mean, if you're working through the whole day thinking, "Oh my gosh, is it almost 5 o'clock?" Is it, you naturally, it's like running a long distance race. By the end of it, you're kind of tapped out. So how do you manage your energy through the day, and then what can you put at the end of the day that kind of charges you up? Are you having a team meeting that you're getting excited about? Or are you rallying around how you're solving major problems? You're celebrating the wins that you had the day or the achievements that you made, so that people are in that positive state as they transition.
Drink a pot of espresso. That's one way
there
to
you
get
go.
started, right? I mean, I tell my employees, I said, hey, what is, when it's like we're trying to figure out how to work, how many hours, blah, 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 vacation. I go, what does 24/7 mean to you? They want to know about holidays. I say, well, you get Christmas off if it falls on a Sunday. I'm down to one employee who's been with me for 30 years now. It's funny because I think I'm one of those employers who I'm a little too nice to the employees, and so they take advantage of me. In the past, they've done that, and so I don't really like working. I mean, I like working with people, but I don't really want to manage them for that reason. So it's kind of nice to not be, for me personally, not to be the CEO anymore. I noticed that it's like it was easy for this one employee we had many years ago. She just kept coming in later and later and later, and it was so funny because one time I asked her why she was 20 minutes late. And she said, well, traffic was bad. And it's always bad, though. And I said, well, why don't you leave 15 minutes earlier? And her answer was, if I leave 15 minutes earlier, I'll be in worse traffic and I'll come in later. I'll be more late. I go, what science class did you take? To me, that didn't make sense at all. No. So let's see here. When we get back, I want to ask you, because there's some kind of a master class that you're going to be teaching in August, and we're going to want to find out about that. And also, before we do that, about the pandemic, what that taught you about business in America, because that obviously must have changed some stuff from what you had before.
No, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Let's see here. Third trivia question is on the TV show Cheers. Remember that? Cheers?
All right. Yeah.
Okay. What was Sam's nickname when he pitched for the Boston Red Sox? So if you remember, Cheers is a bar in Boston, and he was the owner of the bar, which I guess he eventually wasn't the owner at some point. He maybe sold it, but he still worked on as a bartender. But previously he was a pitcher for the Boston Red Sox, and he had a nickname. What was his nickname when he pitched for the Boston Red Sox? And it's Ted Danson is, the guy who played Sam. All right, call 888-912-1190. First caller with correct answers going to win that tanning certificate on the TV show Cheers. What was Sam's nickname when he pitched for the Boston Red Sox? Stay with us. You're listening to The Best of Investing. Don't touch that dial. We are going to be right back. Welcome back to The Best of Investing. One more time, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with my special guest, Thomas Douglas. Third trivia question on the TV show Cheers, which was in the 1980s, I believe. What was Sam's nickname when he pitched for the Boston Red Sox?
Yeah, sorry.
I can't remember that one. So his last name was Malone, and his nickname was Mayday. They called him Mayday Malone.
Mayday Malone.
Mayday Malone. Okay. All right.
On the trivia.
Well, that's okay. All right. So we have Thomas Douglas here in the studio, and he's written the book Adapt or Die. So I want to ask you, what about the pandemic? What did that teach you about business in America?
Well, I would say number one, agility. When supporting so many clients in so many different areas, we had to within a matter of a week make it possible for a lot of those business to be able to support a hybrid work environment. So how do your people work from
Yeah,
home when they've never had that experience before? And so while a lot of our clients had prepared for that, there were many, specifically financial institutions, where it was kind of faux pas for banks to allow people to work from home because of the security requirements.
sure.
And on a dime, we had to pivot and make that possible. And so, agility in the business and anticipation of what the technology might need to support to make sure people can stay productive and the business can operate. And it was certainly a challenging few weeks for us to work through, but the team stepped up and made it possible. And so, and our clients adapted very well, and I think most people around the country did. As we saw people get comfortable with it, but it's one of the things that I share in the book and often is that once things shift, they don't unshift.
Uh,
And and that's why I think that you see so many people who still want to work from home, at least in some environment. And so you've heard Tesla really wanted everybody to come back, and so many other organizations said you have to come back. And then all of a sudden it was like, no, we're so many employees were like, no, we're not going to do that. I'll go find another job that supports it. And so I think the mentality around business and what it means for people to be productive and manage, the best of what it means to have proper mental health, which is a part of teamwork, but also the life balance that comes from not having to drive for an hour every day and deal with the traffic. That helps everyone as well. And so I think that agility and adaptability within the business is just absolutely critical.
you know, you would think though that people still want to have some camaraderie. Doing
Mhm.
Zoom can only do so much. And
Agreed.
some of these companies are saying, well, you got to come into the office 1 day a week or 2 days a week. Um,
Hmm.
but interestingly enough, Mark Comp talked about this at Pacific Rev Money. He was concerned when everyone had to work remotely. He didn't think that they were going to be very efficient, and he said he was glad that he was proven wrong. I mean, but
Yeah.
that's mostly because of the team, right? I mean, if you have sloppy people, staying in their pajamas all day, and
Yes, sir.
oh, I got 1 hour of work done, woo! That's going to be a lot different than somebody really says, hey, listen, I've got to put in this a number of hours. Interestingly enough, too, there's some companies that when I worked for a company years ago, they basically, after a year, you got 2 weeks vacation. That's kind of how it
Hmm.
was. Um, or I think maybe you got only 1 week, and then after 2 years, then you got 2 weeks. And
Right.
now a lot of these companies are doing this basically PTO, paid time off. You can pretty much take a vacation anytime you want, but and you think that a lot of people would take advantage of it, but they're finding out that people are not going which is good. They're not taking
Yeah.
as advantage of it. In fact, they have to kind of look back and kind of go, gosh, I actually need to take some time off. Now
Yeah. And
maybe,
we
but don't you think part of that's because the pressure that the employer is putting on them to hit certain goals?
I'm sure that there is some part of that, but what we have found to be the case that we've had to really work on as an organization is they don't want to let their team down. So when you build a really strong team dynamic and
Gotcha.
one person all of a sudden bails out, that obviously the rest of the team has to step in and carry that weight. And what
Yeah,
we have found is they don't want to let their team down. Their loyalties are
that's great.
there, and so we're really having to challenge the team. Well, how can we give everybody permission to take time off where they don't feel guilty for doing so, like they're letting the
Yeah.
team down?
So how do they
Yeah,
do
go
it?
ahead.
So how do they how do they balance that?
Well, it's getting very intentional. Planning for Joe is going to take a week off or 2 weeks off, and from in 3 weeks from now, how
Yeah.
do we as an organization prepare for that? Whether it's backfilling that person from another team, or rotating people in and out, or just making sure that your team has the capacity to handle the work that's going to be coming in at that time.
Well, and I've
It
actually had to tell my assistant, seriously, and I'm not kidding. Had to tell her, stop working so hard.
Yeah.
So I'm really concerned about you. I go, I know, I mean, you're great, but you're working too many. You're just working too much, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
But she's very, very dedicated, and you know, I mean, she's great to have. But let
Yeah.
me ask you, you've got a master class coming up in August here. What is that going to look like, and how can the listeners, if they are interested, sign up?
Yeah, we would love to have people join us. We've actually shifted it. It's going to start in September.
Okay.
So we realized that it was going to conflict with kind of the back to school time. And so we wanted to make sure that the kids were back to school when we launched it. And so we in the master class, we're going to do deep dives in each component of the algorithm of success. So it starts with leadership, and we're going to focus hard on what it means to be a good leader that is a servant leader that really supports and puts people first and makes a difference in their lives. And then we're going to get into the product arena and what it means, and to develop a product that really creates value for your target customer. And how do you know what the target customer appreciates and they see value in, that we describe as a cash trigger? So what is it that is so valuable about the product that people are going to let go of their hard-earned cash? And so we want to make sure that we're clear and diving into that. And then we get into strategy. So how fast do you want to grow, and how many of your products or services do you need to sell to get there? Which feeds into how do you build a sales and marketing engine or a growth engine that supports that? How do your financials line up? And so we're going to go into financial management and modeling, which a
Oh,
lot of
okay.
people I find is, it's one thing to run a P&L, but it's another thing to make sure that the model of the business supports scale and growth, and
Yeah.
reinvesting in the business, and creating protections. And then a whole big section on people puzzles, and how to empower people and make sure that you get the retention that you want, and that you really use those people in the organization in a way that they're excited about.
So is there like a website people should go to sign up?
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, adaptordie.com. And
Adaptordie.com. Okay.
yeah, you go there, and you can get sign up for our newsletter. You can find more information about it, and it will you can sign up for the masterclass there. It's not ready just yet in terms of signing up, but we'll send out an email and let you know when the details are finalized.
How much will that cost?
497.
Okay.
$497.
And it'll
We
last for
wanted
how long?
It's an 8-week course,
Oh,
and so 90 minutes a week, trying to make it affordable,
yeah.
easy for every small business owner to invest in, and not so much time that it becomes a burden,
Yeah.
but it creates a lot of value, because we know small business owners are just strapped for time.
Okay. All right. Very good. Thomas Douglas, thank you so much for joining us. Stay tuned. The Best of Investing will be back with some closing comments. Don't touch that dial. Welcome back to the Best of Investing. Last time for today, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with my special guest, Thomas Douglas. No trivia question, but I want to give a little pitch here for Pacific Private Money. As I mentioned, we as a company are going to do probably over $1 billion worth of business. Very interesting. A lot of mortgage companies are laying off people because interest rates have gone up. There's less demand for refi business.
Right.
But Pacific Private Money, yeah, they do some refis, but they're primarily focused on the origination of purchases. And they're one of the few licensed lenders in California to do owner-occupied consumer bridge loans. So somebody wants to buy their next house, hasn't sold the current one, they don't have to move twice. Many times the bank won't give them the loan until they sell their other house. So what's somebody to do? Pacific Private Money provides a nice bridge loan for them. Interest rates have gone up a little bit, but it's still palatable, especially since there's no prepayment penalty. So you can use Pacific Private Money to get your loan for your new house. And then you've got all the time now to go ahead and refinance with a real bank, cash them out, go down to a decent rate, because they do charge higher than the bank. Right
Sure.
now, it's probably close to about 9% compared to, what, 5% you can get in the bank. But again, if you
Mm-hmm.
pay it off in a month, that's not that much extra interest that you're paying. And then
That's right.
from the investor standpoint, the interest rates have gone up a little bit also. So the main fund that they're pushing right now is called the Freedom Fund. It does have a $250,000 minimum. You should call 415-883-2150 to find out what the interest rate is, because depending upon how much money you put in, if you put in $500,000, you get a little higher interest rate, and if you put in $1 million, you get even more. So and the best part is no fees to get in, no fees to get out, and it's only a 30-day notice that they need to get your money back, to give you your money back. So it's almost like a money market account, but there's no check writing privileges. So you could put your money in today, earn a decent interest rate, and then wait for your next investment in the stock market or real estate or whatever you want to do, and then just give them 30 days notice when you want your money back. So
nice. In today's world, that's a gift.
It's very, very good. Yeah. Especially since you don't have to tie your money up, that's the best part. And your principal stays the same because it's not traded on a stock exchange, right?
Right.
The market's dropped like, I think 20% since the beginning of the year. So the best part is you don't want to lose money. That's the best part. So call them at, or you call them at 415-883-2150, or go to pacificprivatemoney.com. Thomas, any last words before we cut out for the day?
Well, I just want to say thanks for letting me be a part of it. Our mission is to share what we've learned and help small business owners to be more successful and make a difference in the world. So we're grateful to be on the show.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, it was a pleasure to have you. You definitely have some good stuff. So your book, Adapt or Die, can be purchased on Amazon.com. And then also go to adaptordie.com to register for your upcoming master's class in September. Right?
That's correct.
Very good. All right, so now we're going to cut out for our thoughts of the day. What did the priest say at the salad bar? Let us pray. Let us pray. Okay. And why can't you use stew, STEW, as a password? It's not strong enough. Like that one? All right. We got two chuckles out of you, Thomas. We like that one.
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good.
All right. So again, contact pacificprivatemoney.com if you either need a loan or you want to invest at a high interest rate. All right. Or call them at 415-883-2150. Well, anyway, we're going to cut out today. Tune in next week to The Best of Investing. We're going to be giving away more free prizes for answering trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm Edward Brown. We're wishing you the best of investing. So long.